Let's move forward. And next up is state loans. Now, again, let's just walk up to that imaginary bookcase. We know that the first shelf there was the federal loans. I'm going to go down to the second shelf of the bookcase. And the second shelf is titled state loans. So let's look at what we're talking about with state loans. So you're eligible to borrow through the state that you live in or the state in which your son or daughter is going to college in, right? So, for instance, I'm in New Jersey. I have the ability, if my son or daughter is going to school, to borrow through the state of New Jersey state loan borrowing option, which is called the New Jersey Class Loans, which is offered through HESA, which is the Higher Education Student Assistance Authority of New Jersey. Or let's say that I was going to be going to school in Massachusetts. Well, I also have the right to borrow from the Massachusetts equivalent of HESA, which is called MIFA. So I could compare, what does the class loans of New Jersey look like compared to Massachusetts? Because I'm eligible to borrow through New Jersey because I live here, and I'm also eligible to borrow through Massachusetts because that's where I'm going to school. Now, not every state has those type of programs. Most do, but some don't. New York, for example, does not. I'm going to include in the download section a checklist and a cheat sheet that goes through every state, and it will break down if they do have borrowing programs, and if they do, where you go to find that information and the websites and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so you'll have that at your disposal. Don't worry about it. All right, but just know not every state does offer the borrowing programs. The loan is typically in both the parent and the student's name for the entire life of the loan, but it's considered a co-borrowing situation. All right, there are some exceptions, but it's considered co-borrowing, not co-signing. The difference being co-borrowing, it's like you're 50-50 on the loan with your son or daughter. Okay? Co-signing, which we'll get to later on, that's more or less you're the backup plan. The lead applicant on the loan is borrowing, and you're just the safe stop. The fail safe, if you will. Okay, the backup plan, Plan B. Co-borrowing, it's 50-50. You're borrowing, parent, student, 50-50. Right? So that's a big difference between the Parent Plus loan. All right. Applications are completed electronically through the state's website. Approval and denial usually granted 24, 48 hours. Again, these are not long processes. And the programs will be released beginning in June. Like I said, everything in June, all the interest rates reset, all the options come out for that year, and that's when you would sit down and review these things. Now, New Jersey, for example, I remember like 4 years ago, they had like 8 different options. Fixed rate, variable rate, hybrid ones that were fixed and variable, all different repayment options. And, maybe last year or the last 2 years, I think they've gotten down to like 3 options. So they're always tweaking these things. Okay, back and forth, the interest rates, the APRs, the life of the loans, the repayment phases, all that stuff. They're always making little tweaks to it. So just know that. And again, we're talking about all the different states that offer these programs. So, again, there could be exceptions. These are generally speaking how it works. Okay, but if you find one state that might allow you to not be the co-borrower, or maybe it's a co-signing situation. Again, there are going to be exceptions. These are by far just the general kind of guidelines here. And as we get into the pros, some pros for the state loans. Usually aggressive repayment plans offer lower fixed rates than the plus or private loans. Okay, aggressive meaning repayment starts 6 months after graduation. Well, that's pretty aggressive, but it's an option, and with that option offers aggressive fixed rates, usually lower than the plus or private, generally speaking. Okay, so that's definitely a plus. Students have equal formal responsibility for the life of the loan, like we talked about. It's co-borrowing. All right, and now some people think that's a con, others might think that's a plus and a pro. It depends on your situation and your criteria as a family. Right, you can elect to have the student receive the bill directly. All right, multiple repayment options, like we talked about, generally speaking. You can elect to defer repayment at a higher rate. Okay, so you can elect to defer 20, 25 years usually, like a plus loan, obviously at a higher rate. Just like anything else with loans. If they're going to give you a benefit, they're going to take something else away. So they're giving you they're giving you lower rates here, right? They're giving you something. What are they taking away? An aggressive repayment plan. 6 months after graduation, payment plan starts. All right, down here they're going to give you something. What are they going to give you? A deferment plan, or you can, you don't have to start payments, until, we're going to give it over 20 years, all right, as opposed to, let's say, a 3-year payment plan, or you're going to stretch this out over 20 years, but it's a higher interest rate. So if they're going to give something to you, they're going to take it away somewhere else. Obviously, most parents would know that already by now when it comes to loans. As far as cons, it does not offer the same consumer protection as the federal government offers. Is it better than private lenders? Yes, but it's nothing compares to the federal Parental Plus loan. Like we said, if you're visualizing it on a timeline, the Plus loan is all the way over to the right, the safest possible place. All the way over to the left, and the most dangerous place would be private lenders, and kind of right in the middle are state loans. All right. Option to defer payment comes with a higher interest rate, like we talked about. In addition to accrued interest, very little flexibility in changing repayment plans. Whenever you choose your repayment option, generally speaking, there's usually very little flexibility. Unlike the Plus loan, where you can go back and forth between the repayment plan that you chose, and they give you unlimited options of going back and forth. Again, because they want to do everything they can so you don't default. Right? Not the same. Does not hold true, generally speaking, with state loans. Most states do not offer consolidated options either. New Jersey does, but not every state. So what does that mean? Well, like I said, with the Plus loan, every year, just like financial aid, it's like its own entity. So you're going to have to apply again, and at the end of 4 years, you're going to have 4 different state loans. Well, New Jersey says, just like the federal government, 4 loans will combine and consolidate into one big loan, and that's what you're going to repay. Some states don't offer that, and it's 4 different loans. It's 4 different schedules. So just know that. The parent typically remains in the life of the loan as a co-borrower, all right, as opposed to co-signing, which we'll get to in a second, where at some point, usually, the co-signer is relieved of their responsibility once there's a certain threshold achieved as far as the debt amount. All right. Typically speaking, that does not hold true with these state loans. Usually an origination fee, just like we went over with Plus loans, and it's harder credit requirements than Plus loans. Is it extremely hard? No, but nothing is as lenient as Plus loans. All right. So just know that.